Hi, I'm Skip BEDELL, and welcome to the Aspect Stone Glue Up Wall Tile installation video. Now, these tiles are the perfect product to transform any plain, ordinary wall into a beautiful feature wall. They have a natural stone finish that comes in many different colors, like this beautiful weathered quartz, and the best part is they're on this lightweight tile that's super easy to install. You need no mortar, no grout, not even any masonry tools. It couldn't be easier, and I'm going to show you how to do it in just a minute. But before we get started, let's talk about some of the tools that you'll need to get the job done right. Be sure to have protective eyewear, a tape measure, pencil, utility knife, a file, square or speed square. For shortcuts, a pair of tin snips, and for long cuts, you can use a table saw, jigsaw, or circular saw. You'll need a level, a caulk gun, and adhesive. The manufacturer recommends Loctite Power Grab Ultimate for the best bond. Before starting, be sure that all surfaces are clean, dry, free from any kind of dust, grease, or dirt. Now that we have our wall clean and sanded and prepped and ready to glue, let's talk about getting these tiles glued onto the wall. So before we get started, I like to make sure that the floor is level. Take your level, place it on the floor, and make sure that it's level, because we're going to be starting our first course of tiles down on the floor and then working our way up. So if the first course is crooked, the whole wall will be crooked. I like to put my first tile on the wall, set a level on top of it, and then we can mark a level line all the way across the wall. We can use that as a reference point to work all the way up. So if the floor is not level, then we can go ahead and trim the bottom of this first course to get it to this level line, and then we're level all the way up the wall. Now that we have that set up, we can place our first tile on the wall. Now let's talk about layout. Working off this level line, we want to stagger these joints. So when we glue them to the wall, we're going to be staggering the joints or doing a brick or subway design like this, all the way up the wall. Running a full course and then starting the next one with half and doing a brick design every other course, all the way up the wall. Now that I've shown you the layout, let's show you how to get these things glued up. Now we're going to apply the glue to the back of the Aspect Stone tile. The first thing we want to do is take a cloth and wipe down the back of each tile and make sure they're clean and free of any dust. Then take our Loctite Power Grab Ultimate, load it into your caulk gun and a utility knife, and cut back the tip, leaving an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch size bead. We're going to frame the whole outside of the tile about a 1/2 inch back from the perimeter with a frame of glue, and then we're going to fill in the middle with an M pattern and a couple of dots in the middle for good measure. Now the tile is ready to adhere to the wall. Now we're working off the floor, and we've already established a level line to work from that we've drawn on the wall. I'm going to slide this first tile right into the wall and pull it to my level line and firmly press with even pressure across the whole tile, adhering the tile evenly to the wall. Now that we have our first tile glued to the wall, we're going to go ahead and repeat that process all the way down the first course. Working off the level line, we're going to take our edge of the tile and butt it right against the other tile that we've installed first. And again, firmly apply pressure evenly across the tile, always being mindful of that level line. Coming to the end of our first course, and as you can see, we pulled away our baseboard cabinet so it was easy to go behind rather than doing a notch cut around it. We're going to show you how to do notch cuts in just 1 minute, but we've run our first course right behind the baseboard cabinet. We're going to screw that back up to it after we're finished. When we come to the end of this first course where we're going to have a piece we have to cut. So there's 2 different ways we can do this. We can go ahead and take our tape measure from the corner to the edge of our first tile and go ahead and mark it on that tile. Or even easier, what I'd like to do is just sit our tile in place, put it right there, mark it on the tile where we need to cut, and then we can take our square edge and make that cut. Now it's important that we always want our factory edges that come from the factory that are nice and square to butt up against the factory edge. So in a case like this, we're going to make that cut and we're going to flip it over and put the cut side into the wall, and always make sure these factory edges touch each other. That'll give us a nice, clean, tight seam. So let's go ahead and show you how to make the cut, which is actually really easy to do. You can use anything from a utility knife to tin snips to the power tools. And if you're going to use power tools, you want to make sure that you have on a pair of good eye protection. So the first thing we want to do is go from the mark that we've made. use a speed square or square to make a nice straight line. And then we can choose whatever tool is available to make that cut. It's very easy to cut this material. So I've chosen to use a circular saw for this cut. And I'll go ahead and make that cut right now. As you can see, it's really easy to cut this material. So we've got our last piece of the first course all cut right now. We'll take it inside and get it glued up. I've made the cut piece, and as you can see, the factory edge is here. We're gonna butt it into the factory of our last piece. I have the cut side over here going into the corner, and I've already applied the glue. Let's go ahead and set this piece in place. We're gonna put the cut end into the corner and the factory edge right up against the factory, butt it up nice and tight to give us a clean seam, and working off that level line on the top, because remember, this first course is critical that we have a level, so we're level all the way up the rest of the wall. Now that we're done with the first course and it looks amazing, we're gonna get started setting the second course. So as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna do a brick or subway design, which means that we're going to stagger the joints. So this next course has to start with a half a tile, because we're gonna split the seam and now work a second course all the way down the wall. So we need to go out to our cutting table, measure this tile in half, cut 2 halves, and remember again, the cut edge is always gonna go into the wall, the factory edge facing out. So let's go get this one cut in half and get it glued to the wall. So I'm about to start the first piece of the second course, and as I mentioned, we're going to brick pattern or subway style that design, which means we're gonna wanna cut this tile in half to start that first course. So the easiest way to do that is to measure the tile, find the halfway point and make a mark. Then we're gonna take our straight edge, make a straight line, and now go ahead and cut this tile perfectly in half, and we'll be able to use both halves to start every other course of our subway design. Now that we have our cut half pieces that we're going to use on every other course to start on this side, I've already applied glue to one of them, and we're going to go ahead and start with our second course. So remember, the cut side is always going to go into the wall, leaving our factory cut out and giving us a nice tight seam. So we'll go ahead and put this up against the wall in the corner, nice and tight down to this bottom seam, and press firmly against the wall. And you can see there we have the beginning of our second course. Now, after we have our first half tile glued, I can go ahead and begin our second course, and you can see that'll start us into a brick or subway design all the way down the wall. We're working down the wall with our second course, and now we've come to a point where we have to make a cut. This is called a notch cut. We're going to cut around this receptacle. We have a plate that'll cover over that cut. So what we need to do is find out where that cut needs to be. So what I typically like to do, will hold my tile against the edge of the other one. That's where we know it's going to sit. And I'll mark where the cut needs to be. And that's going to go on the bottom now. And then I can take my tape measure and I can measure up how high we need it to be. And we'll transfer that measurement onto our tile. And then we can go ahead and take a square and make that notch, connecting those lines. So we know the bottom, and the other side. And connect it on the top. Now that I have the notch marked out that I've used my pencil and square to make, we're going to go ahead and make these cuts. The first thing I can do is score this back line right here with a utility knife. Give that a couple of scores. And then I can go ahead and take my snips, and it's very easy to cut this material. It's just like cutting paper with a scissor, actually. It's really easy. There you go, there's the piece. So we're going to slide that right in over our receptacle into place. Make sure it fits good, and Now we're ready for glue. Again, we're going to sit it right down on top of our first course. You can see how important it is that we started off with a level line, because now we're working level all the way up the wall and all these joints are nice and tight. This installation went super easy, it's going fast, and I gotta tell you, this looks absolutely amazing. We're about to start the last course, but as you can see, we're a little bit too tall. So we're gonna cut this whole tile the long way and trim a little bit off of it. So I'll take you back outside to the saw and show you how to make that cut. So I've already made my measurement on the tile, and go ahead and transfer that measurement to a table saw, and it makes it very easy to make this long cut on here. And always be sure whenever you're using power tools to make sure you have eye protection on. All right, so we transferred our measurement. Let's get the cut going. I've got all the pieces to the last course trimmed, and we're about to start the first one with this half piece. It's already glued, and here it goes. Same as all the others, equal pressure. As you can see, we're leaving a little bit of space on top. Our crown molding is going to cover all of that. And now we're ready for our first full piece. Work right down the line and finish this up. Here it is, a complete stone feature wall in only a few hours. For a full selection of colors and styles and a complete installation guide, go to aspectideas.com.